So we live in an era that's overflowing with information. Never before in human history have we had such a vast amount of knowledge at our fingertips. If you need to know how many planets there are in the solar system, if you need to know how many bones there are in the human body, if you need to know how tall the Eiffel Tower is, you can find out in a split second. Every 10 minutes, more information, more data is generated than was generated from the dawn of civilization to the beginning of the information age. Every 10 minutes. That's mind-boggling. Yet with all this knowledge, the deeper existential questions of life remain even more elusive, don't they? Why are we here? What gives life meaning? How do we find our purpose in life? How do we find genuine fulfillment? What do we do about suffering? And how might suffering help us live into our purpose? Google can provide facts, but it can't answer those questions for us. It can't answer the most profound existential questions of life. In our quest for answers, we find ourselves yearning for something deeper, something more, something beyond mere information. And that something is wisdom. Wisdom. A quality that transcends facts and information, leading us to live well and to live rightly. The author of Proverbs gently advises, "My child, eat honey, for it is good, and the drippings of the honeycomb are sweet to your taste. Know that wisdom is sweet to your soul. If you find it, you will find a future, and your hope will not be cut off." Did you know that one of the earliest titles given to Jesus was Moshel Moshelem? It was a well-known title in the ancient Near East and in the Jewish tradition, and it meant teacher of wisdom. Teacher of wisdom. Jesus was influenced deeply by the wisdom literature of his tradition, of Ecclesiastes and Job and the Book of Proverbs. And like other Moshel Moshelems, he taught with mashal, which were parables or wisdom stories, wisdom sayings intended to awaken his followers to the big picture. A big picture that some were open to and many were not. Wisdom is sweet, but it is elusive. It's often challenging to describe wisdom, although Bruce, you did a wonderful job doing it. It's difficult to find, and it's hard to see unless we are in its presence. When we are in the presence of a wise human being, it's clear there's something different. Wisdom is not the same as knowledge or intelligence. It's not the same as book smarts. It doesn't come quickly. It doesn't come automatically. There are young people who are full of wisdom, and there are old people who are fools. Wisdom is sweet, but it's elusive. Today's text, we're introduced to Lady Wisdom. Interesting that it's personified as a woman here who prepares a spiritual feast of lamb and wine and a table adorned with flowers and silver. The lamb representing the sacrifice required to live a life of wisdom. The wine representing the richness, the sweetness of a life of wisdom. And the table adorned with silver and flowers demonstrates the joy and the beauty that comes from living a wise life. We are told that Lady Wisdom builds her house upon 7 pillars, and it led me to wonder this week, what might those 7 pillars be? And so I took a deep dive into the entire book of Proverbs and tried to unearth what those 7 pillars might be. This is my attempt to bring some clarity and structure to this amazing book of Proverbs. And for each pillar that I'll offer you, I'll offer a short teaching from the Proverbs and from the teachings of Jesus and a very short story to point to the mystery that pillar holds. And inspired by the unity displayed during the Olympics that we all enjoyed together, where the world came together, I thought it would be particularly meaningful and timely to draw upon stories from other wisdom traditions. For wisdom cannot be confined to any religion or culture or tradition. For it is easy to see in our world today that there, for every one wise Christian, there are many foolish ones. And none of us has the monopoly on wisdom. So let's begin. Pillar number 1, walking humbly. Proverbs teaches when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. And Jesus taught, for all who will exalt themselves, they will be humbled, and for all who humble themselves, they will be exalted. In Noah Ben Shay's Jacob the Baker series, a man comes to Jacob troubled by his desire for recognition. He confesses, "Jacob, I want to be praised for my good deeds, but I fear that this desire makes me less righteous." And Jacob responds with this story. There was once a candle that burned brightly in a dark room. The candle was proud of its light and wanted to shine even brighter so that everyone would notice its brilliance. But as it tried to burn more fiercely, the flame consumed the wax faster, and the candle began to melt away even more quickly. You see, the candle forgot its purpose, which isn't to be seen, but to give light to others. For in the end, the brightest light is not the one that seeks to be noticed, but the one that quietly fulfills its purpose. As we walk humbly, we begin to seek understanding more deeply. And that's the second pillar, seeking understanding. Proverbs teaches the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Jesus says, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened. The story goes, there was a famous scholar who visited a Zen master, and he was eager to show off all his knowledge. And the master listened patiently, but said nothing. And finally, he offered the scholar a cup of tea, and he began to pour the tea into the cup until it was full. And then he kept pouring until the tea was overflowing the sides of the cup, pouring over the table and eventually the floor. And finally the scholar said, "Stop, the cup is full." And the teacher said, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and knowledge. How can I teach you anything if you do not empty your cup?" Walking humbly, seeking understanding is about being teachable. It's about being a student, a disciple, which is what the word student means. And we can't be a genuine student or a disciple without being open to feedback, to correction, to discipline. Which leads to the third pillar, embracing discipline. Proverbs teaches, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves. As a father, the son he delights in. Jesus teaches, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. There's an African folktale of a boy who loved climbing trees, and one day he had a close call when his branch that he was stepping on snapped. And his father scolded him, which upset him even more. So the next day the father took him to the same tree, and he asked the boy to climb again, this time with care. And so the boy climbed slowly. He tested each branch, and when he got to the top, he realized that his father's discipline had saved him. He realized that his father's discipline came from his love. The father said, "Discipline, my son, feels harsh, but it is given out of love. Learning to heed discipline will keep you safe and help you grow strong." And likewise, as we embrace discipline, our character is refined and strengthened, and our hearts are opened, and our hands are open to others, which leads to the fourth pillar, practicing generosity. Proverbs teaches that a generous person will prosper, and whoever is kind to the poor lends to God, and God will reward you for what you have given. Jesus says something similar. He says, "Give, and it will be given to you, for the measure you give will be the measure that you get back." There's a wonderful Hindu story of a traveler who settled under a tree, and a villager approached saying, the stone, give me the precious stone." "And what stone?" the traveler asked. And the man said, "Last night I dreamed that I would be given a stone that would make me rich forever." And the traveler rummaged through his sack. He pulled out a stone. He says, "Is it this one? I found it on the path in the forest yesterday. It's yours if you want it." The man marveled at the stone. It was the largest diamond in the world. That night he took that stone home, and he couldn't sleep. He was tossing and turning all night. And at daybreak he returned, and he handed the traveler back the stone, and he said, "Give me the wealth that allowed you to let this stone go." Generosity opens the door to harmony. It softens our hearts to one another. It builds bridges, which leads to the fifth pillar, pursuing peace. Proverbs teaches that those who pursue peace have joy. Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." In the Japanese tradition, there's a story of a young samurai troubled by inner turmoil, and he seeks the advice of a Zen master who walks him down to a pond and asks him to pay attention to the surface of the water. And he says, "See, when the surface is disturbed, the pond no longer reflects the sky above it, but when it is still, it perfectly reflects the beauty all around it." And likewise with you, my son, when your mind is still, you will reflect peace in the world. But if you are filled with turmoil and inner struggle, all you can bring into the world is the opposite of peace. For true peace happens when we align ourselves, our will, our ego, with God's will. Which leads to the sixth pillar, prioritizing integrity. Proverb teaches that whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. Jesus says, "Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Anything beyond this is of the evil one." In Aesop's fable, which we did at choir school this week, a teacher gives each of his students a small pebble to put into their shoes for a week. And then the teacher asked the students, "How did it feel?" And they said, "It was incredibly painful." And the teacher explained, living without integrity is like having a pebble in your shoe. It may seem small and insignificant at first, but it will cause great discomfort over time. Always walk the path of integrity, and you will walk with ease, no matter what difficulties you may be in the midst of. For when we walk with integrity, we are attuning ourselves to the blessings all around and within us, which leads to the final pillar. Pillar number 7, cultivating gratitude. Proverbs teaches all the days of the oppressed are wretched, but the grateful, cheerful heart has a continual feast, and it is good medicine. And who does Jesus celebrate in the story of the 10 lepers who are healed? The one leper who returned to give thanks for the healing. In an Indian folk tale, a blind man carries a lantern at night, and he is mocked for carrying this light that he cannot see. And they ask him, "How could you carry this lantern? You can't even see the light." And he says, "I carry it so that others can see me and won't bump into me. I am grateful for the light that protects me, even when I cannot see it." When we cultivate gratitude, we are blessed to be a blessing to others. You see, wisdom is just not a set of principles to learn. It's a way of life to embody. It's better caught than taught, or as the Baptists like to say, it's better felt than taught. We live our way into wisdom over time if we're open to it. As Lady Wisdom and the Moshel Moshalim Jesus teach us, we can build our lives on these pillars that are strong. We can learn to walk humbly. We can learn to seek understanding. We can learn to embrace discipline. We can learn to practice generosity, to pursue peace, to prioritize integrity, and to cultivate gratitude. So as we go forth from this place, how will you continue to build your life upon these pillars? What small step can you take this week in the midst of all that is going on within you, within your community? What small step can you take to embody wisdom? For wisdom is sweet to the soul. And if you find it, you will find your future. Amen.